Start over there. Hi, everybody. Welcome. This week's group call, our topic is going to be on anxiety, and we're going to talk about how the program specifically frames anxiety and what we do to help shift our relationship to anxiety. And so, for some of us, diet is a source of anxiety in more ways than one. And we can have anxiety about knowing what or when and how much to eat, or we can have anxiety about not knowing the right things to eat. And all of those sort of anxieties can increase stress hormones that trigger the same anxiety as if we were being chased by a bear or getting audited by the IRS. So let's talk about what we're doing to reduce the nutritional causes of anxiety so we can better deal with those bears and auditors that we might not have control over. Because diet and nutrition, if we have that as a solid foundation and we are eating in a way that we feel confident, that is not creating more anxiety, then we can face all of the anxiety inducing things in our lives a lot better. So what's really important to know here is that anxiety is our body's way of warning us. It's a message to say, hey, something's not right here. So the goal is never to eliminate anxiety. It's healthy, it's beneficial, it's normal. But it can become overwhelming. It can become crippling. So we want to make sure that our anxiety response is functioning in a healthy way, in a way that we can manage, and in a way that gives us helpful feedback. And so the goal here is to change our relationship to anxiety so that it isn't crippling. Because otherwise, anxiety becomes our reason not to take risks in life. There's just too much anxiety. We won't know what is a tolerable amount of risk and say, okay, yes, of course I should have some anxiety about this. I'm stepping into the unknown. I'm doing something scary, but that's okay. It's going to be worth it. I'm going to soar. But if anxiety has become overwhelming, it prevents us from taking those risks, making changes, trying something new. So I'm Eric, and this is Rachel.
Hi. So I'm Rachel. I know most of you on this call, but I know that we have some new people in the program who are on this call, but also some new people in the program who are going to be joining or viewing this later. So I just wanted to introduce myself because I know everyone knows Eric, but my name's Rachel. I am Eric's wife, but we work and run Naturally Connected Life together, and we are doing all of the things to help you with your health and wellness. So right now, I wanted to share a little bit about my anxiety because I have suffered with anxiety for a very long time, up until recently, and so I understand. And this is a very dear to my heart issue that we can all do better and overcome together, because it doesn't have to be a way of life. Anxiety doesn't have to be the defining factor in your life. So with anxiety, there's a few different things that can trigger anxiety. And I actually, in making this list that I'm about to talk about, I decided that we have to make an infographic because there's a lot of good information that I'm going to share that I'm going to say out loud, but it'll be really great to have something visual for you too. So I'm committing to making an anxiety infographic to share with everyone about it. So there are two different things that could start triggering anxiety. It could be something physical or it could be something emotional. And so some of the physical symptoms that can be triggered by anxiety. And we'll talk more in depth about this list and some of the things. So if you hear something and you're like, I want to know more about that, put a pin in it or raise your hand, or we can just drop that in the chat if you want to know more about something specific that I list. And then we can dive deeper into how the program is helping with those specific things, or helping you to do that. So not eating enough or eating too much can be one of the physical things that triggers anxiety. Not drinking enough water, having irritation in the gut, something along the lines of candida or some inflammation, anything that is related to digestive problems. We've all heard about the gut-brain connection and the fact that if you have imbalances in your digestive tract, it does affect anxiety because there are specific bacteria that can trigger and literally just trigger anxiety. So that's one other one. Estrogen. Eric was making a joke about this earlier today because I obviously am very pregnant, and he said that estrogen accumulation causes anxiety, and I forget what your example was because I'm pregnant too.
Well, I said that, like, yeah, notice how pregnant women, as get closer to the arrival of the baby, start to get really nervous about making sure everything is just perfect. And that is, what estrogen does. That's what it's supposed to do. And when it's healthy and in balance, that's totally fine, totally normal. And if it gets out of balance, it can become overwhelming. It can become crippling.
Yes, so having estrogen accumulation can be an issue, and that could also be related to menstrual cycles. Depending on where you are at in your menstrual cycle, you may have higher anxiety. Or if you have started to go through menopause or something like that, those can also trigger those things. Nutrient deficiencies, we can go more in depth if that's something that you're interested in. Artificial light can trigger anxiety. I know that fluorescent light, I think a lot of people know that fluorescent light is not good. But there's other types of light that are artificial light that are also not good. I think like certain types of LED light, Eric was telling me about the other day, they cause neural things that trigger anxiety. EMFs, so if you're in an area that is, really high in electromagnetic frequencies, New York City, sorry guys, or someplace like that, you may not even be really aware, but it is having an effect on your body in some way. Pollution is another one that can have a effect on anxiety. And then of course, physically, if you add some stimulants in, there's a very strong possibility of increased anxiety. So some of the stimulants that you could physically add in that would cause anxiety would be caffeine. Obviously, we know that one. Nightshades contain, I cannot, of course, is it calciferol? Is that the one that, I forget, whatever the chemical compound is, Eric, sorry, that causes nightshades to trigger anxiety, but nightshades is acetylcholine, sorry. There's just too many bad things in nightshades that I can't keep straight. Artificial sweeteners can trigger it. Stevia, even the natural ones, can trigger it. And then obviously the not natural ones are even worse. Synthetic food colorings, everyone's heard, red dye 40 affecting children and their hyperactivity and things like that. It works the same for you, and you'd be surprised that even in some natural products that you'll look at, quote, natural products, like beverages and things like that, that they will have some sort of food coloring additive in them that you're like, whoa, didn't realize that. And then beta carotene can also be a stimulant that can cause that. And beta carotene could be one of the natural food colorings in your in something that you're drinking as well. So those are, that's a not extensive list, but or not a total list, but it's pretty extensive about all of the physical things that can trigger anxiety. So some of the emotional things that would trigger anxiety, and this is definitely not a complete list because everyone has different things emotionally that would trigger anxiety, but something like orthorexia, being just like Eric was saying, what to eat, when to eat, how much to eat, not, and being afraid of certain foods, it can cause anxiety, it can cause extreme anxiety. Perfectionism, like Eric was saying before too, I struggle personally with perfectionism. It causes me to not do things, even though I want to do them because of that anxiety. Social media can cause us a lot of anxiety. You get on and you start scrolling and then you see something and then you don't even realize, you're like, oh, that just caused me like some sort of anxiety, or it caused me to have some sort of emotional reaction that cascaded into anxiety. Confrontation or potential confrontation can cause anxiety. So I know that sounds silly, but like someone bumps into you on the subway and is really rude and like kind of aggressive about it. Like I've been there, so I know. It causes a triggered reaction, and then you kind of carry that on throughout the day. Or a potential confrontation being like, oh, I have to talk to my boss about X, Y, and Z, and it's going to be a really uncomfortable conversation. Things like that. Negative anticipation about things. Obviously, we have a lot of negative anticipation about doing things, and that might be why we're not doing them. But that's not actually addressing the problem by not doing them. We're just stewing in that negative thing in the negative thought pattern instead of actually addressing them. And then another one this is, it looks very different for everyone, but a lack of integrity, that could be, you don't like where you're living and you can't tell your roommate, or it could be, like you're in a relationship with someone who you've really actually fallen out of whatever with, and you're not in integrity in that. So lack of integrity can look very different for different people. If anyone's looking for a book to read, I just started this one. It's called The Way of Integrity. It's really great. She's really wonderful, Martha Beck. And then also change. Change is one of any sort of change, good or bad, can trigger anxiety. And so we have to remember, like Eric was saying, about if we want positive changes, we need to be able to handle the other triggers and handle our anxiety in a way that is going to be supportive. So some of the ways that the program specifically is addressing the physical triggers, and Eric will jump in on these as I go through them. But one of the things that we want to always make sure that everyone is doing is reducing your cortisol by eating regularly. And I know that he talks to everyone about this on their calls, but are you eating every 2 to 3 hours? Even if it's just something small, even if it's just tea with honey and collagen in it, whatever it is, you need to be consuming on the regular so that you don't have those blood sugar spikes and those blood sugar drops that are going to cause you to spiral into anxiety, actually, and then lead to a cascade of effects that might also cause you to eat something else that you don't want to eat, or do something else that you don't want to do. Then reducing accumulated estrogen through the morning tonic is another one that we want to make sure to do. And there's other ways that Eric works with people to reduce accumulated estrogen, but the number one being that orange juice in the morning is really helpful to that. Do you want to say anything on those? No.
No, I mean, that's exactly why we do it this way, so that as we're doing the work to repair issues with blood sugar regulation and insulin sensitivity and everything else, we take the pressure off of our bodies to have to do harder work to self-regulate. And then as what we find is that as we get further along in doing this and being more consistent, is that our bodies become much more resilient and able to handle the stress of being less consistent or not following the program exactly, so that we create the conditions of what we call being anti-fragile.
Okay, so some other things that we are doing to physically help reduce your anxiety triggers are to improve iron and copper regulation, and that's done with eating some dairy and incorporating some dairy into your diet, as well as not adding in or free iron with certain foods like kale and things like that.
Right.
Then we want to increase oxygen and reduce histamine. So a lot of the breathing exercises that we talk about help to do this, as well as the supplements helping to reduce histamine. Both of those are going to create clearer pathways and reduce anxiety in general. Eric was just mentioning to me a paper about histamine reaction anxiety that he found, and the direct connection between having high histamine levels and that. So histamine being, it may be if you suffer from allergies, you would know you have high histamine levels, or if you have autoimmune disease, you would know that you have high histamine levels. So then eliminating nightshades obviously is one of the big things that we advocate for to reduce acetylcholine and to help you to stop adding the stimulants in that are unnecessary and are causing you to get more stimulation than you need. The same with caffeine for many people. So many people on this program do have to eliminate caffeine. So if that's you, that's how we would do it. And then once you've broken the cycle, perhaps you can add caffeine back in. I have not yet done that, but Eric has added caffeine back in with great success. So you just have to know what your body, know what you're doing, know if it's right for you. Yes, someone raised their hand.
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm late to it.
It's okay.
What are the supplements you're saying you should be utilizing to lower histamine and anxiety?
Yep.
So actually, we don't really lower them with supplements. We lower them by avoiding the triggers. And one of the major triggers is the nightshades, because they block our ability to break down acetylcholine. And antihistamine drugs are actually anticholinergic. So what they're doing to reduce histamine is blocking the production of acetylcholine. So we can get right to the cause, and we can just do things that reduce acetylcholine. And the number one thing to do there is to stop eating nightshades, but also addressing iron accumulation and estrogen accumulation, because they also increase histamine levels. So acetylcholine, which can be increased by the presence of oxidative stress from iron, because that's part of the natural response to inflammation and damaged tissues, is that acetylcholine is triggered, and that will increase circulation and then inflammation. And histamine is actually a hormone that responds to irritation and inflammation. So it's natural to have that process, but when they get completely out of balance, then we start to have long-term systemic problems. And one of those could be anxiety, and many other issues like autoimmune. So what we're doing is eliminating as many of the underlying causes, and then helping the body to heal and bring those systems back into balance. Does that make sense?
Yes, thanks.
Sure.
Okay. So other ways that you can help to reduce your anxiety are to simplify and to get organized and get clear about what it is that you are trying to work on and trying to do. And this can be in regards to your physical health as well as your physical space as well. It's proven that having cluttered spaces causes anxiety because it triggers your mind to be in this constant loop of seeing things, seeing an excess of things, and causing it to, I need to do something with that. I need to do something with that. There's this box and this pile and this and that. So eliminating and simplifying your physical space will also actually help you to reduce anxiety on a physical level that is a little different on the, it's not something inside, it's on a physical level on the outside, but that's something that we want everyone to be working on as well, because I think that that's going to help everyone get clear on what your physical health goals are as well. So just to recap, because we had a whole bunch of people come on the call right in the middle of that. I'm going to be creating a infographic that's kind of a checklist of all of the potential physical things that can trigger anxiety. Everything from not eating enough to eating too much, not drinking enough water, irritation in the gut, estrogen accumulation, nutrient deficiencies, artificial light, EMFs, pollution, and stimulants from nightshades, caffeine, artificial sweeteners or artificial colors. So those are all physical things that might trigger your anxiety. Also some emotional things, orthorexia, being the fear of eating unhealthy things or certain foods. Everyone's orthorexia might be different. Perfectionism, social media, confrontation or potential confrontation, negative anticipation, lack of integrity in your life. And then a positive one, but still something that you need to work on or think about is when there's change going on in your life. So does anyone have any questions about the list of potential anxiety triggers that they want to ask questions about, or some of the solutions that we presented? Yes, go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I was just curious what suggestions you had in terms of trying to deal with perfectionism, since that's a regular burden of mine.
Yes. I too struggle with perfectionism. And I know that there are many people on this call who also struggle with perfectionism as something crippling that prevents them from taking action in the ways that they may want to. So with perfectionism, part of it is acknowledging that it's something that you struggle with. That would be the number one thing that we would want to say, and to see how it to look at how it manifests in your life also. So as an example, for me, perfectionism might mean I don't actually start a big project, or it might mean that I don't start something personally that I am really passionate about. Just as an example, Eric and I are working on this. We have many friends who want to discuss an intentional living community. And I had been putting off writing this very long email that I needed to write to everyone because I was being perfectionistic and was just not doing it because I'm afraid what other people will think, even though they're my friends, all of those things, right? So we want to know how it manifests in our life and see what it looks like in our life. And then from there, we have to be able to recognize when it's time when a little bit of discomfort is okay. Because part of being, yes, exactly. Thank you, Eric. Part of being a perfectionist is you may not do the thing that you want to do, or you have a story in your head that goes about berating you for not being perfect enough or not doing it the right way. And you want to, in order to overcome that, you really just have to do sometimes you just have to take the action, and to feel a little bit of the discomfort. And it's easier to do that when you've acknowledged that you're being a perfectionist. So there's that. Did you want to add something, Eric?
Yeah, that fail means first attempt in learning. And then, when it comes to our health, it requires us to let go of the idea that we have control.
Mm-hmm.
And a big part of my shift towards healing was learning that I can trust my body, and that the results that I'm getting are direct cause or directly caused by the results of everything that I'm doing, all the choices I'm making in how I live my life. And if I don't like those results, it's not a matter of trying to change those results with a supplement or a detox or something like that. It's a matter of completely evaluating, analyzing what is it that's underlying these results so that I can address those underlying causes directly and figure out solutions that not only get me the results that I want, but are actually sustainable. So a big part of that for me was overcoming my fear of perfectionism, failure, all of those things, because that was a lot of what was driving not only my decisions, but like most of the health and wellness world. This idea that, if you make any mistakes at all, you're not perfect. You succumb to one small indulgence, then everything is ruined, and you're going to have to do an intensive detoxification process and start all over. And that was not how I wanted to live my life, and that was not the way I wanted to model living for example, for my 3-year-old, right? And certainly that type of anxiety is not conducive to a healthy pregnancy, but in general, just to any stage of life. So what we're going to do here is now a little exercise in like checking in with anxiety and being able to use it as a tool to say, hey, this is the body giving me some sort of information or guidance or asking for something that it needs. So we're going to do just a brief guided meditation. That's something that Rachel and I have found helpful for ourselves when we find ourselves experiencing anxiety. And so this is just an opportunity for you to try something and see how it works for you. So I'll invite you to close your eyes. And we'll start by just breathing in through the nose. And we're going to use the power of sound. So whenever you experience relief, the sound that typically comes with it is ah. And so we can use that sound when we feel anxiety, and we can say, okay, I'm getting a clear sign. Something is not right in the world, not right with me right now. So how can I bring it down a couple of notches so that I can figure out what's really coming through? So take a deep breath in through the nose. And when you exhale, say, ah. And we'll just do a couple more breaths like that. So take another deep breath in. Ah. And one more. Ah. And now with our eyes closed, we can just check in with our body. Where are we feeling this anxiety? Is it in our stomach? Is it in our chest? Is it in our throat? Where are we feeling it? Because it's a feeling, it's a physical sensation. Where is it? Now that we've found it, we know where it is. What can that tell us about where the anxiety is coming from? What were you doing as you started to notice the feelings of anxiety? Had you just eaten? Have you not eaten in a while? Are you in a room of people that are making you uncomfortable? Are you thinking about something in your life? Finances, work, relationships, health? So once we connect the situation to the feeling and we start to see, oh, this situation is causing me to feel anxiety here. Is this something that I can change? If it's something that I ate that's giving me anxiety, or something that I didn't eat, I can certainly change that. Is this a relationship that maybe I can't change? It's my boss. Okay, well, what can I control? How can I show up differently so that this situation no longer gives me anxiety? But if this is just something that relates back to diet or nutrition, right? Oh, look, it's already 1:30 and the last time I ate was at 8 a.m. Okay, I need to eat. My body is telling me, hey, I'm starting to freak out because we haven't eaten. Maybe I'm just thirsty. So what is that for you in that moment? And now this anxiety becomes approachable. This anxiety becomes something that we can decide, is this something I can do anything about, or is it not? And if I can't do anything about it, what could I do instead? What would I like to be experiencing or feeling right now instead of anxiety? So it doesn't mean that the anxiety goes away, but it does mean that we remind ourselves that we do have some say in what we're thinking and what we're feeling. So what are some thoughts or beliefs that we could reinforce in this moment to help us better relate to the anxiety? We can start by saying, thank you, body. Thank you for looking out for us, for clearly communicating your needs, and to help me see that I was creating a situation that wasn't in my best interest. And so we can start to reframe negative emotions, challenges in a way that serves us. And this opens the door to allowing everything else that we're doing for our health, for our careers, our relationships, whatever it is that we're working on. It allows the space for all of those things to work more effectively. It helps us shift our focus and our energy and our attention towards the solutions, towards the things that we want, rather than clutching to the problem and hoping that there's some sort of solution that will just make the problem go away. So we can ask ourselves, okay, I'm still feeling this anxiety. Am I actually in an unsafe situation? The answer is yes. Well, you've got to get yourself out of the situation as quickly as possible. But if that is not true, then great. The anxiety was just a wake-up call to grab our attention, to improve the situation, to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves. So let's close. We'll take another deep breath in through the nose. And interestingly enough, again with sound, is that if we take another deep breath in with our nose, and then exhale but hum with our mouth closed, that increases nitric oxide, which can improve circulation and get some more oxygen to places that it's needed. And sometimes that can help our bodies relax physically just by humming for maybe a minute or two. All right, so how's everybody feeling? Great question. So Daniela asks, what if anxiety is because of a long-term bad health issue? So I think that that perfectly reflects what I was saying, is that yes, anxiety is a normal response to physiological distress. And so when anxiety comes up, in that moment, if we can accept that, okay, I'm doing the best that I can, and there's nothing that I can do in this moment that is going to make all of my long-term chronic health problems magically vanish, then I can say, okay, instead of focusing on what's wrong or what, problems and things like that, if it's not like I'm, in acute crippling pain at this moment, it's just anxiety, then I can say, okay, I need to take a moment. What's triggering this anxiety right now? What about how I'm feeling is causing me to experience this? Is there something that I could do to help alleviate some of that anxiety? Do I need to have some carb and protein to calm my nervous system, like a gelatin gummy? Works incredibly well for this. It's anti-inflammatory. It helps level the blood sugar and reduces cortisol, which can be very quickly triggered, especially if we have kind of entrained our minds to this chronic disease state that can trigger, a cascade of thoughts, right? That it's like, well, okay, having this experience, so now I'm going to start down this line of thinking. So what can we do to disrupt that line of thinking and shift that energy into something that actually would serve us in the moment? So that could be working with positive affirmations or mantras, doing humming, doing some gentle vagal nerve stimulation breathing, just like we were doing, breathing in through the nose and exhaling, increases vagal nerve tone. I think Eric was demonstrating exercise. If that's something that you're physically able to do at the time, then yeah, sometimes just going for a walk and admiring nature can be a very welcome disruption to that line of thinking.
Another thing that I would suggest doing is, even if it's only for 5 minutes a day, but to write down and make a list of all the ways that your body is working properly, and to see that list every day, because yes, long-term health issues are something that it's a struggle. It's difficult. It's very difficult. But just taking that tiny amount to thank your body for the good things that your body is doing will make a shift.
Yeah, taking stock. What is going well? What is working? Because most likely there's at least something. There's at least one thing.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that the things that we are dealing with aren't important, that have to be addressed. It just means that where we put our energy and our attention is what tends to exacerbate. So I love to give the example about, the war on drugs. And then after the 2020 elections, everybody was posting congratulations to drugs for winning the war on drugs. Because after some 30, 40 years or so, many drugs have become legalized all around the country because obviously what we were treating drug addiction as a crime was not working. And it's a great metaphor. If we treat disease as something that happens to us rather than acknowledging that it's actually our bodies working the way they're supposed to with those circumstances. It might not be ideal. It's definitely not what we want, but we can offer some sort of gratitude and acknowledgement to our bodies to being so resilient that they're able to persevere through these health crises. So even cancer can be seen as a gift, something that an adaptation of the body to prolong life through circumstances that would have otherwise already killed us. So again, just like how we're reframing our relationship with anxiety, this is a big part of this is about reframing our relationship with how our bodies are functioning. Was that helpful, Daniela? Great.
Excellent. So, like Eric was saying, anxiety is not a bad thing. It's just telling us where we can improve and where we need to make some changes. And if we continue to just suppress our anxiety, we're not going to be changing the underlying cause, and we will continue to suffer unnecessarily. So, does anyone else want to have any other questions or want to share about their experiences with anxiety and how it maybe has improved or what you're still struggling with?
Oh, oh my gosh. No, I mean, I was having incredible. I mean, I would be having, boy, extreme anxiety attacks. Kind of around the time I started this, and I guess through all of it, practicing everything as a whole with diet and really practicing doing what I can to get into my body and look at that what's going on, what's actually going on with this. I mean, everything really started to change. I mean, it was incredible because I couldn't even sleep. I mean, I would be trying to go to sleep and I would be thinking, oh, if I go to sleep, am I going to wake up? Really scary stuff.
Mhm.
And now it's just, I it's so important for me to get up every morning and do my meditation and a number of different things I do to focus on and different things. I know that there's so many great things that have happened in my life that I can call upon, that I can see that and have proof that, I mean, there's proof that I am who I say I am and who I want to be. I know in the past there are times that I have really created myself to be powerful person who I want to be all the time. And not that I'm going to be that all the way the time. And really, I guess also it is right now, giving myself the flexibility and not being easy with myself, that I am going to have some times of breakdown and look at those and see, okay, what happened. And it's just, now I realize I'm going through so many different things that it's possible. I mean, and different things. I mean, getting clues every day around me, just being aware of getting these clues and soaking that up. And this book, I'm listening to this book, this Think and Grow Rich. Pam Grout has so many great books out there. It's so, I mean, she had been in a place of being in an extreme anxiety, and now she is, like, so I was listening today and I was like, now she is like, she didn't have any of these books before, and she just started to do it. And I listened to this book, this audio, it's like on the back, it's like, wow. So
Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Getting up every day and biking out to the pier and exercising and doing the breathing exercises, and what do I want to do now? Yeah. What do I want to eat now?
One of the things that you touched on that I think is very pertinent, and it kind of goes back to Rob's question about perfectionism, but it really is just about letting go of trying to be perfect and knowing that some days you will have bad days, and some days you will have good, some days will be better, and some days maybe it's really difficult to not focus on whatever maybe your diagnosis is, or whatever you're feeling that day, or whatever is really overwhelming to you that day, but that every day is a different day. So you don't have to be overwhelmed tomorrow, or you don't even have to be overwhelmed, in the next hour, but we have a choice, and we can be kind to ourselves when we are overwhelmed.
That is it's so important to be kind to yourself. I mean, I'm learning so much about that, and this, imperfect action and doing it wrong, it's really freeing. It's so freeing. And to see, I mean, there are other people that, that are doing, I mean, just look at what's going on. I mean, people are getting rich by putting horrible music out there, or horrible art out there, or doing, I mean, and they're just, probably there's so many people out there so much more talented that are keeping that inside and not letting it out, because this is what's going on up here.
Yep. Does anyone else have any other experiences that they would like to share? Thanks, Eric.
So I think just to kind of sum up here is that, anxiety, whether it's about, a chronic health condition that we feel like we don't have control over, or perfectionism about, is Eric Dahl going to think my music sucks? Either way, the anxiety is our body's way of giving us an opportunity to reevaluate what we're doing, to say, okay, is what I'm doing actually bringing me some sort of comfort, peace, joy? Is it allowing me to feel as good as I can feel in this moment? So the anxiety is like a stop sign from the body. It says, hey, pause for a moment. Let's evaluate. Let's look around and see, is what I'm doing right now in the interest of creating the results that I really want in my life? And if not, this is an opportunity to let go. Let go of the clutter, let go of the thoughts that aren't serving me, and whatever else it is that we could be hanging on to, hoping that it's going to give us different results, when the reality is that no, we're doing the same thing, it's going to get the same results. And that's really what the anxiety is telling us. Hey, we've been here before. Let's not go here again.
Thank you, everyone. And like I said, I will hopefully be making a infographic to help as kind of a helpful checklist of, did I eat? Did I drink? What did I am I being exposed to negative people? Whatever it is, so that you can help to diagnose your anxiety and to say, I can change what's going on because I now see what's the underlying cause.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a
Thank
great day.
you. Have a great week.